Hi, Lauren Kime here. I'm sitting in my home studio in eastern Pennsylvania, about 90 minutes outside of Manhattan. Pennsylvania is one of those states that is completely locked down to the point where realtors are not permitted to even show a property, walk through a vacant home, or put up a sign. So, how do we conduct business? Well, today we're going to talk about one of the most important subjects in real estate, which is doing a listing presentation and listing the property without ever seeing the property and possibly without ever meeting the client. Impossible, you might ask? How can we price a property, handle objections, put our marketing into action, and everything else we do without physically sitting with the client? Well, let's be honest. We've been doing virtual listings for years. A client in New York has a resort property in Florida, or an investor in Germany has an investment property in New Jersey or commercial real estate piece in New York. In those cases, we need to do the presentation virtually. It's just been complicated in some areas where we aren't physically allowed to view the property inside. So let's talk about how we can work through these challenges. We're going to have to build a slightly different skill set from in-person meetings. In person, we build rapport. We take cues from their body language and we see visible reactions. We find connectors. In residential real estate, there are great agents who can walk into a foyer, see family photos or photos of kids playing some sport, and are able to use that to make an instant connection. In commercial real estate, you might see someone's diploma on the wall, or sports memorabilia, or maybe some decoration that leads to a connection that you might be able to discuss, a conversation you might be able to have. And remember that 80% of all communication is nonverbal. That's why trainers like me teach techniques in mirroring and complementary personalities and so on. It's a little harder to do over a webcam, but nothing's impossible. This is a relationship business, and the foundation of relationship is built on somebody liking and trusting you. When we're doing a listing presentation in person, our goal is to help the client to make the best decisions for their situation. But in order to do that, those clients have to like and trust us. Rapport and building connections with the customer help to make that happen. If we're presenting at a physical distance, like we are virtually, we have to have strong communication skills and presenting skills. Again, the seller needs to get to know and trust you without being physically present. So remember, our business is based on referrals. We're going to deliver exceptional service, whether or not we ever meet them, and be worthy of those referrals that they give us. And if we can convey to our clients from the very first meeting that you need their help in building your referral network, you can spend that much more time focused on your clients. Now, there are a lot of you that are scared to death of trying to list a property virtually. It's natural to have some doubt, but don't panic. You've never done this before. You can't smile at them or schmooze or take cues from their body language like you normally would. Maybe you're not tech savvy and you don't like the way you look on the webcam. Your hair's too long and so on because you've been home and haven't been able to get to a salon. You've got to start by being confident. You've got to talk positively to yourself. You've got to take some deep breaths to help relieve anxiety. Now, keep in mind, your potential client believes that you're the expert. You're the one speaking with them. Your client doesn't know what you're going to say, so if you make a mistake in everything that we're doing now with our listing presentation, that's okay. Just keep going. Practice the first minute in your mind before a virtual meeting and smile. Again, be confident. The second part is to be prepared. Up your game. Your confidence is higher if you know the neighborhood or the property type. And if you're trying to list a property that you're very familiar with, that's great. If you don't, if you're not listing a property you're very familiar with, then you've got to do some research. Research before that meeting online. Know the square footage of the building. Know the zoning, what the potential uses are. Know what surrounds the property. You might even be able to go to Google Maps and get a virtual drive-by. Google has taken so many exterior photos of properties across the country. Hopefully the one you're going to be doing a presentation on, you'll be able to pull up. If there's an old listing online somewhere, maybe you can pull that up. Look at the interior photos, look at the exterior, so you can do some research right away. And preparedness will lead to building that bridge to the client liking and trusting you. Have your presentation also in a visual format you can share. It's so much easier to show something than to say something. You've also got to master the technology, whatever platform you use. Whether it's Zoom, whether it's GoToMeeting or FaceTime or Join Me, you need to understand it. Glitches like losing sound or being unable to share your screen can derail your presentation. You also want to figure out how to show your presentation while still leaving yourself on the screen and your clients on the screen if humanly possible. The best experience is when both parties are on camera. The clients can see you and you can see the clients, but you also want to be able to visually show what you're going to do to market the property. So you need to have your presentation in a format that you can share and hopefully still leave yourself on the screen so they can see you and you can see them. Of course, this is a suggestion that I'm ignoring today myself. A method to improve your technique is just like any other form of real estate sales. Practice, practice, and practice some more. Zoom allows you to record your conversations, so do a trial run and record it and play it back and see where you can improve. And by the way, watch where the camera is pointed. You might have it on top of the screen, you might have it between two screens, you might have it on the side, but watch where it's pointed, and whenever possible, try and maintain eye contact with the camera. It's so much more effective when trying to sell yourself and your marketing virtually if you can visually maintain eye contact with them, which is really looking at the camera. And remember that the client isn't experiencing the appointment like they would if you'd meet them in person. Use a slower cadence and pause between thoughts so they can absorb what you're saying. Especially online, we tend to rush through our presentations. I'm probably one of the most guilty of this. It's critical to slow down and be professional. That's right, wear pants even if your client can't see them. You may be able to bring up something personal, connect with them. And what I just put on the screen is watch your lighting. You may have to put a light on the other side of your computer in front of you to make yourself appear a little bit better. Try and get the lighting right if you can so you can show yourself in the best, well, possible light. One of the biggest concerns I hear from our agents is that they don't want to turn on the camera because someone will see the laundry in the room or the dishes sitting on the counter or whatever happens to be sitting behind you depending on where you have your laptop. Zoom and many other software programs also allow you to use a virtual background, and some of them are pretty good. You can have a little bit of fun with it. You can make it look like you're sitting in a tower in New York and a skyline. You can put something maybe a little different behind you. Perhaps you're sitting in front of the pyramids. Perhaps you're on a starship. Perhaps you're sitting in an aquarium. But anyway, you can put some sort of virtual background behind you. I prefer something that looks professional, but you can put almost anything behind you. And remember that if the camera's on, which I highly recommend, they can still see you. So please shave that 3-day beard growth. Your spouse will thank you also. Dress professionally, maintain good posture, position the camera the right way. I've been on meetings where a client had set their phone on the table and the video feed is like looking up their nose. Please try and position it so that they can see you in your best possible light. And smile. There's nothing better than a smile. Try not to fidget. Make eye contact, which is very tricky. And again, breathe and pace yourself. And it's more important than ever to listen more than you talk over them, which is a problem for some of us as realtors. And just like any listing presentation, you don't want to speak to one spouse only to have them tell you that they have to run your listing price by the other spouse. Or if you happen to have an estate and there are 5 or 6 heirs, try and get everyone on at the same time. You want to be able to connect with all parties making a decision, and you want to be able to explain your thoughts on price and marketing rather than relying on someone to relay what you tell them. Have an agenda, lay out a plan of your listing presentation, and try and keep the conversation on track. Keep it focused. Now I'm going to go through the listing track, but for years and years and years, I used the same listing track. The best listing presentations follow a plan and agenda. And this is a listing track I've been teaching for years. But we're going to have to change it to fit the virtual environment. I used to start with deliver a resume book, then visualize your presentation, go up and ring the doorbell, smile, pay a sincere compliment, take them to the kitchen table, break the ice, ask the big question, which in my case is, what do you expect from our get-together tonight, and what would be the ideal outcome? Take them out on a safe island, ask them a series of questions, write down the answers, tour the home, and come back to the kitchen table to discuss your marketing and servicing plan. That's our listing track. Now I'm going to try and change that a little bit and tweak it. So we're going to deliver a resume book. I'm going to go through these step by step in this presentation today. Visualize what you're going to do before you connect with them. Connect on Zoom, and then still smile, and if possible, pay a sincere compliment. You're still going to try and build a connection with them, so you're still going to break the ice. You're going to ask the big question. You're going to take them out on a safe island, which I'll explain in a couple of minutes. Ask a series of questions. Ask them about the home or virtually tour the home, and then go into your marketing and servicing presentation. See, the sad and scary truth is clients make a snap decision about you the minute you first meet. And they may not like the way you look. They may not like the way you dress or the way you sound. You may remind them of someone that they don't really like. And it's challenging to recover from a poor first impression. And it's doubly challenging when you're really doing it virtually over the computer. And let's be honest, if you're one of 3 or 4 agents interviewing for the position of marketing this multi-million-dollar mansion, which by the way I sold, the owners are probably going to have an affinity for one of the agents that they meet. So one way to handle this is to pre-sell them, to try and build a connection with the owner early. And I've said this for many years, and unfortunately only 1% of the population of realtors actually does this. But most top agents get something delivered to the client prior to having their meeting. In this case, they're meeting online. That can be a resume book, a resume binder, a pre-listing package. It's going to set you apart from the competition, particularly if it includes some personal information and experience outside of real estate, because they're going to find a way to make a connection with you. So what's a resume package? Well, keep in mind, we can have this delivered, by the way, before they have a meeting with us. We can send it by FedEx. We can send it by mail. If we really have to, we can build one of these as a PDF, although I tell you it's going to work much better to have a physical copy. But get something to them ahead of the meeting. Resume package can include an agent bio, a company bio. You can put in a reference list of similar clients, a flyer on similar properties in the area that you've sold. And if you haven't sold any, try and put together a list of similar properties that your firm has sold. Include your personal mission statement that you want to be the client's real estate advisor for life. You want to be the family real estate advisor. You want to include in this highlights from your listing presentation so they have a taste of what you're going to be talking about. And some of the things you can throw in might be a moving guide. You might throw in testimonials from clients. You might include a copy of some of the listing paperwork. And something that I usually suggest is a pre-listing prep vendors like painters and home stagers and so on. Anybody that client might need, include that ahead of time. And humanize your book or your pre-listing package. Include, if you can, a family photo, if you don't mind doing that. Include activity photos. Golfers tend to like golfers. So if you have a picture of yourself in there playing golf, they're going to connect with you differently than if they just see you as a salesperson. What about bowling? People who bowl like people who bowl. People who go hiking like people who go hiking. Put in what you do and they will find a connection with you. Pet photos are a very popular thing. You with your cat or your dog. Cat people tend to like cat people. So it's something to talk about that's outside of just real estate. It's humanizing you. It's making you a person, not a salesperson who's trying to sell them something. And I'd also put in a list of interview questions so that we're all on the same page. I'm sure you'll be interviewing 3 or 4 other agents. I'd like to give you my list of interview questions that I would suggest you use when you're meeting with agents. So how many properties like mine have you sold? And by the way, any of these interview questions are slanted toward what you do as opposed to what someone else does. So you want it to fit you. So if some of these don't fit you, don't use them. How many properties like mine have you sold? Do you create a unique property website and pay for direct-to-consumer targeted marketing? Do you have an assistant? Do you have a team that assists you with marketing and sale of a property? Do you have a transaction coordinator? Do you have somebody who takes over if you're away or on vacation? Do you have a clearly written, defined marketing program for a property like mine? These are all questions you can put together. And if you have a team, make sure you've got a lot of data on your team in that package, because that's an important selling feature. If you don't have a team, then try and build one, at least virtually, to work. So if you've got a receptionist, that's your client coordinator for your team. If you have a title agent you work with regularly, that's your conveyance manager. You still have a team that works with you. Just lay it out. And most important, include in your package the fact that you work primarily by referral. Now, one other thing is, in a virtual world, if you are sending a PDF version, which again, I really strongly suggest you send something physical, at least on a virtual version, you can send links to pre-listing prep vendors like painters and stagers. You can send a short video thanking them. You can even do a personal video to them, thanking them and explaining the process. And you can have copies of these ready at a moment's notice to send out. Just tweak it and send it, whether you're sending it by mail, whether you're sending it by FedEx, or whether you're sending it virtually. Once you get that pre-listing package sent, the next step is really your initial impression. Make sure when you log on and meet with them to paste a smile on your face, pay a sincere compliment if possible, and I'm going to come back around to that. So paste a smile on your face before you even enter a Zoom meeting or FaceTime. It's particularly critical online. Why? Because too many agents and brokers attempt to create a business-like look for themselves, feeling that they appear professional, and instead they look like they're frowning. My family and I were on a Zoom meeting the other day with our church, and my daughter said to me, "Why are all men so angry?" Well, that's an impression we sometimes convey without actually meaning it. How many of you lost a listing to someone that was nowhere near your equal, but was bubbly, bouncy, and enthusiastic during the presentation? I have. It's because you don't look professional when you don't put on a smile. You look kind of constipated. So put on a big smile and be certain to make eye contact with the camera and pay a sincere compliment if you can. You may have to wait until the tour stage to pay a compliment, but do your best to compliment their home or their choices in the building. And then breaking the ice means that asking them about themselves personally. Hopefully they found something in your resume book or pre-listing package that they'll point out. But if not, see what you can find about them that you can connect with. And again, going back through our virtual listing track, deliver the resume book, visualize your presentation before you meet, connect with them on Zoom, smile, pay a sincere compliment if you can, break the ice, ask the big question, and so on. I'm going to get down to the rest of this. Now remember, the best listing presentations follow a plan, an agenda. This is the listing track we've been teaching for years, but we're changing it to fit this virtual environment. So the big question, you have to make a statement to shift the conversation from personal breaking the ice to getting down to business. And there are many statements you can make to shift this conversation. The one I use is, what do you expect from our get-together tonight? And what will be the ideal outcome? The reason is that they'll often tell you whether they're just trying to figure out what they want to do, or if they really want to get this property on the market as soon as possible. Depending on how they answer this might change the flow of the rest of your presentation. I'm going to go through the next few steps of the presentation. Part one is the opening. Mr. and Mrs. Owner, first I want to thank you so much for having this meeting with me. And I just want to start by explaining that I understand you have a number of options open to you in selling your property. Now, you can try and sell it on your own without an agent. And if you choose an agent, there are many great real estate professionals you can hire. Hopefully, you're going to find that I'm a little different than the traditional realtor. I'm not here to try and sell you on my company or get your listing, but rather to see if and how I can help you. See, I approach real estate from the consultative side. Most of my business comes from referrals from my clients. If you and I decide to work together, I want you to select me and my team, not because I tell you a price you want to hear, but because my marketing and my service plan are superior to anyone else in the region. I'm hoping that you'll select me to be your partner in getting this property sold, and that you'll be so pleased with the service that my team and I deliver that you're going to tell your friends and everyone you know that they shouldn't call some other company. They need to talk to Lauren Kime. And that allows me to spend my time on really taking care of my clients rather than spending 30 or 40 or 50% of my time out hunting down the next deal like so much of my competition. I'm not here for one transaction. I'm here to show you how I can assist you and to assist everyone you know, and I hope that makes sense. Part two is the safe island technique. The idea behind a safe island technique comes from the medical profession. When you're going in for surgery, for example, you're nervous, right? So the doctor explains what's going to happen. On Sunday night, my office is going to call and schedule what time you'll come in on Monday morning. Monday, you'll show up. They're going to prep you in this way. You're going to go into surgery. It's going to last about 90 minutes. Then you're going to go into recovery for about an hour, and then your family can come to see you. The idea is to reduce the stress by explaining what's going to happen up front. So that's exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm going to explain the rest of the time we're spending together with this client up front, and then follow the rest of that in our agenda. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the first thing I'd like to do tonight is ask you a few questions so I can better understand your situation and your goals, so I can better determine if and how I can help you. Second, I'm going to try to understand your home so I can assist with pricing and positioning it accurately. So I'm hoping to either look at photos of the property or have you do a quick walkthrough with your mobile phone so I can visually review it. Next, I'm going to run through my marketing and servicing plan with you. I won't take too long and bore you to tears, but it's important that you know what my responsibilities are in the process of marketing and selling your home. That way, you'll have a better understanding of how the selling process works. And if you and I decide not to work together, you can at least use my marketing programs as a measuring stick to measure other agents against. Does that make sense? Okay. And then finally, we're going to discuss price. I'll be able to share my screen with you and go through some of the sales of similar properties in the area to help narrow the likely sales price of yours. This is critical because I don't want to underprice your property and give away some of your savings, but I also don't want to overprice it and scare away strong potential buyers. The initial words that you use show that you're different. You're not there for the one deal, and you need their help with referrals. That's part of every type of listing presentation. And even if you're doing it virtually, you need to make sure it's built into that as well. Part three of my opening is asking a series of questions. Now, as I mentioned, I'd like to start by asking you a few questions so I can better understand your situation and your goals, so I can better determine if and how I can help you. So why do we ask questions? Well, we do want to qualify the client and show them that we care about their wants and needs. Those are two separate thoughts. We want to qualify the client, and we want to show them that we care about their wants and needs. Please understand that our goal is to try and get them to like and trust us and to help them make good decisions. Both of those things are key. And if you actually ask questions before launching into your long-winded sales pitch, they're going to see you differently as a partner in trying to go forward rather than seeing you as somebody who's trying to sell them on something. And if you're on screen and you're taking notes and actually writing down what the owner tells you, you can remember everything later, but it's also showing that client that you care about their situation. And then you're going to, of course, build your presentation to answer the questions that they have and the concerns and issues that they have to deal with. So don't try and sell them on your marketing experience or techniques at this point. Just ask questions and just listen to them. Now, here are the questions that I use, and you can certainly use them for yourself as well. These are the residential version. For commercial, I have a little different setup. But how long have you been thinking about this move? Now, again, these are setup questions to get them in the process of answering to us. So how long have you been thinking about your move? Okay. Is there any reason you're planning on moving now? Yes, I have to move because of this. When was the last time you sold a home and moved, and how did that move go? Could it have been done better? Now, what I'm looking for here is trying to understand their situation and also trying to get them to tell me what issues they've had in the past that we can address and show them how we do it better, that we're not that typical salesperson who's just looking for a buck. Is there anything you're concerned about or not looking forward to in the move? Now, this is somewhere where we may be able to help them. Has anyone taken the time to help you financially qualify yourself for this future move? Now, there's a couple of reasons we ask this. One is we want to make sure they actually can make the move. And the second reason is this: if nobody's financially qualified them yet, and they're interviewing 3 or 4 agents, if you can at this point get them connected with a lender, and that lender also sells you, oh, you're so lucky to be working with Lauren Keim, he is the best. That's a third-party endorsement. But you're also tying that client to you somewhat by helping them to find financing. So that's an important key. When would you like to move by? Well, I've got plenty of time. I want top dollar for my property. I want 400,000. I know it's only worth 300,000. I don't have to be out of here for another 3.5 months. Oh, 3.5 months. Okay, well, the average time to closing is 45 days. All right, that gives us 2 months to sell it. The average marketing time in the area right now is 3 months. Ugh, we should have listed last month. We want to get an idea what their actual time frame is so we can work it backwards. And if there is a time constraint or time issue, we want to know about it. Now I want to find out what they want for the property. And they're typically not going to tell me. Well, that's why I called you. I want you to tell me how much my house is worth. So one way of asking it is, how much equity do you think you have in the property? I think I've got at least 50,000. Okay. And how much do you still owe on the property? 150. Okay. Now I've got an idea what they have in mind that they're looking for the property. Have you had an opportunity to study a current and competitive market analysis or price analysis on your home? There's a couple of reasons I ask this. One is that they will often answer, I looked at Zillow and it's worth this. Another reason is we get to find out whether or not they've talked to other realtors, and they still may not tell us what that market analysis came out to, but at least we have an idea what's in their head if we can find this out. When you purchased this home, what did you like most about it, and why did you choose this home? Now they're going to sell you on what they think is wonderful about their property, and that is going to help you to price it somewhat, but it's also going to tell you how emotionally attached to it that they really are. What is most important in your sale, the highest price or time or convenience? They're almost always going to tell you the highest price, but they may also tell you that timing is critical as well. And finally, not finally, but what would it do to your plans if the house didn't sell? And then stop talking for a minute, because that's going to get their mind gelling, their mind thinking. I don't understand. What do you mean, what would it do to my plans if it didn't sell? Of course my house is going to sell. I have the best house in the entire known universe and Canada, because everybody believes that they've got the nicest house. Everybody believes they've got the best. So what would it do to your plans if the house didn't sell? Well, we are in a strong market, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. And, 75% of the homes being put on the market are selling. And they're selling within the market time of about 92 days. However, about 25% are not selling. That's often because they're overpriced or something's wrong, staging issue that has to be corrected that never gets corrected. So I'm just checking for what's most important to you. If we can get the price that you want, or if it can't be done, what would it do to your plans if the house didn't sell? And then the last two questions I ask are, is there anything that might prevent you from going through with this decision to sell? If this has to be signed off on by a parent or somebody else, we want to know about it now rather than after we've put $1,000 into marketing on this property. And if you were to hire me to be your consultant, what would you expect from me, not just to perform adequately, but to be exceptional? They're always going to start with saying, sell my house. And even if you're on camera, try and write that down, sell my house. Because you're trying to stall for 7 or 8 seconds, because about 50% of the time, they come up with something else. Well, we had a problem in the past with this, or our friend or our cousin or our sister had a problem with this, and a realtor did this wrong. We don't want this to happen. You want to know about that now, because you're going to address all of this in your marketing presentation. Now, once you've gone through your series of questions, the next stage in our listing presentation track is to virtually tour the property. This can be a little tricky. Either the customer is hopefully going to show you photos of their home or their commercial property or their investment property. And in that case, you're going to have to allow them to share their screen back with you so you can look at pictures of the property. And if that's the case, we may need them to take photos ahead of time so that we can look at them while they're on. So we may have to prepare for that before this meeting. The other possibility is they might walk through with their camera, their phone, and do a video from their phone. If that's the case, then have them stop at different points in the house and ask questions about the house. Show them that you care. Now remember, as you're walking through virtually, you're going to ask many of the same questions you would have if you were in the house in person. Right? Walk me through your home. What updates have you done? Show me the key improvements, the key upgrades. And again, if you see something that you can highlight, those are beautiful granite countertops. When did you have those installed? Boy, your landscaping is gorgeous. Did you do that yourself? That decorating is nice. Did you design that yourself? Try and pay sincere compliments if you can, because that helps you. Now, once you've gone through the house virtually, they've given you some information, you've gone through your questions, now's the time to backtrack and go through your presentation. Once you've looked through the home, you've looked at the photos, I'm not going to go through a presentation here, but this is where you're going to share your screen and explain how you market properties, how you get properties sold, and what tools and skills you bring to the table. That's your presentation itself. And once you've gone through your presentation, in my case, the 9 steps to selling your property, you're going to handle objections or respond to their concerns. If you stumble over client objections, by the way, clients wonder if you really know the answers, and it erodes trust and plants seeds of doubt. This is one of the reasons objection handling techniques, we try and teach you a script first. Even though you think it sounds hokey, even though it doesn't sound like you, and you have to make the words yours, you have to have an answer when somebody says, well, why won't you list it at a 2% listing commission? Why won't you list it for $100,000 too much? You need to be able to answer those questions effectively, even if in the beginning it doesn't sound like you, because if you don't know how to answer it, again, it erodes trust and plants seeds of doubt. Some of the questions you might get asked now are, can we actually sell a property in a quarantine? And the truth is, yes. Actually, in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've sold 5, and we're not even allowed to show property in this region uh, under this quarantine. However, there are buyers that are willing to buy a property sight unseen because there is a shortage in the market. Should I allow buyers in the property? Well, that's a risky question as well. And is there a risk of us getting the virus if a buyer comes through with it, coughs all over the house, and touches the doorknobs where the virus can sit for 5 days? There are a lot of questions like this right now, and we're building right now a table of them and some answers. So I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. First, I'd like you to subscribe to my channel. Go down and click that little button if you can now. And secondly, in the comments below, write down the questions that you've received from clients during the quarantine or during a virtual listing. And we'll do a whole program on handling objections in a quarantine world. But I'd like to get as many of them as I can. So handle those objections first and then go into pricing it. But how do you price it? Well, I would have you've already done a lot of homework ahead of time. So you already know that it's a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath colonial with a 2-car garage built in the 1990s in this subdivision in this school district. So perhaps you have the multi-list pulled up on your screen, and you also have a PowerPoint for your presentation. And you shift your share screen from your PowerPoint presentation over to the multi-list and start going through comps and show them what's most similar to your particular property that you're trying to price. And in some ways, this might actually be easier to explain to clients because you can step through interior photos right with them, which is something you typically don't do when you're sitting in front of the client. And by the way, if you've ever had a hostile seller when you're sitting in front of them and they get upset because you think it's priced here and they think it's priced higher, unfortunately, sellers are more apt to be hostile over a computer because it's easier to yell at somebody on Facebook than it is to yell at somebody in person. So you have to be careful how you approach it. And how do you price it? Keep in mind that the current market and situation are rapidly evolving. So we have to do the best we can to come up with the most likely value based on what's happening in the marketplace. Next step is helping them to help you to market it, because we can't, in some states, go through and photograph this house. If we can, that's fantastic. We're going to hire a professional photographer, in the case of what we do, and we send them out to either do a Matterport tour where they go through and do a 3D walkthrough. I think in a quarantine world that's critical to do because it allows buyers to really see the property. Or you might have a virtual tour done where you have drone footage. That's another way of doing it. I think in this particular case, a 3D walkthrough is a little bit better. You can hold a virtual open house, invite everybody you can through social media and through targeted advertising to try and have a virtual open house all at once. Or you can have the seller, in cases like Pennsylvania and Michigan, where you can't actually go in a property at all, have the owner take the photos and have a professional, hire a professional to clean them up, correct them, highlight the right parts, and make them brighter. Try and make it the best you can. Now, if you are trying to train your clients to take photos, there are 6 steps I like to go through. First of all, most of them are trying to take photos with their cell phone. And too many people, for whatever reason, hold their cell phone vertically. You can capture more of the room if you hold it horizontally. So try and get them to hold that camera horizontally. That's step 1. Step 2 is try and have them take the photos or video when the sun is directly overhead. This will result in even natural light coming through the windows. And make each area as bright as possible. Open curtains, turn on lights, but take test shots and look at them, because too often the light coming through that's streaming in might actually blot out the photo with too much light. Same thing if you have heavy overhead lights. It might actually make the photo overdeveloped. Last couple of things are stabilize the shot. So if you're taking photos, try and use a tripod if possible. They'll come out clearer and crisper. If you're doing a video walkthrough or your client's doing a video walkthrough, I'm hoping that somehow they've got a stabilizer stick. If not, they can at least use a selfie stick. Walk slowly. Keep your arms close to your body so that it doesn't shake as much. And then make sure your house is clean. Look at the rooms before you film. What is sitting out? Clean off the counters, make sure the toilet seats are down, and so on. And then highlight the best features. Now, one of the questions I get asked constantly is about house showings. What do you do? If you're a seller, open all the doors before showings and sanitize the knobs after every showing. But if you leave the doors open, leave some drawers open, leave some cabinets open, the buyer won't have to touch it to open them to look. Turn on any needed lights and lamps and light switches before the showing starts so the buyer doesn't go through and touch it in case they do have some sort of communicable infection. And keep windows and doors open if possible, depending on where in the country you are, to let fresh air flow throughout the showing. If you're buyers, tips as buyers, refrain from touching any surface while viewing the property. Use your own car while driving to a showing. Don't carpool with others. Wear booties or shoe covers while inside the property, and always wear a mask. And bring your own hand sanitizer in case it's not provided by the agent or the seller. And these tips, by the way, were brought to you by Certified Residential Specialist, CRS designation. I thought they were great, so I'm sharing them with you. And then once you have gone through your entire presentation, they like you, they like what you're talking about in terms of price, they agree with you, and they say they're going to put it on the market now and not wait for the economy to reopen, then you can send the contract for digital signatures. And if they aren't ready, that's okay. Don't put any pressure on them. If you're interviewing others, use me as a measuring stick and take all the time you need to think about this. I'll reach out to you in about a week if that's okay, and keep you up to date on the market so we can take action when the time is right and when you're ready to move. So I want to thank you all for watching. That's our introduction today to virtual listing presentations. And again, if you can, please subscribe to our page. I'd appreciate it. Thanks so much.